Healthy and educated youth is the future of the African continent. Well, this was the message from Bill Gates, delivered at the 14th Nelson Mandela Annual Lecture yesterday.
Speaking on the eve of Mandela Day today, the co-chair of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation said a lot still remains to be done to fulfill Mandela's dream for the country. Gates also promised to invest further to improve the quality of education and access to health services for the people in Africa. The theme of the lecture at the University of Pretoria's Mamelodi campus was Living Together. The lecture is one of the Foundation's flagship programs to raise topical issues affecting South Africa, Africa, and the rest of the world.
Since 1990, child mortality in sub-Saharan Africa has been reduced by 54%. That means 1 million fewer children dying each year compared to 25 years ago. 10 African countries achieved the very ambitious MDG target of reducing child mortality by over 2/3. At the same time, the incidence of poverty and malnutrition is down. And though economic growth has slowed in the past few years, it's been very robust in many African countries for more than a decade. This is real progress, but the African Rising narrative doesn't tell the whole story. My first trip to Africa had been just the year before that, in 1993, when my wife Melinda and I had traveled to East Africa. The landscape was beautiful, the people were friendly, but the poverty there, which we were seeing for the first time, disturbed us. It also energized us. Obviously, we knew parts of Africa were poor, but being on the continent turned what had been an abstraction into an injustice we couldn't ignore. It was when I started coming to Africa regularly for the foundation that I got to know Nelson Mandela personally. AIDS was one of the first issues our foundation worked on, and Nelson Mandela was both an advisor and an inspiration. One thing we talked about was the stigma around AIDS. So I remember 2005 very clearly when his own son died of AIDS. Rather than stay silent about the cause of his son's death, Nelson Mandela announced it publicly because he knew that stopping the disease required breaking down the walls of fear and shame that surrounded it.